Do you remember the power of the cloud? Microsoft's gambit on its Azure cloud infrastructure as a way of redefining the games we'll play this generation. Well, obviously that never happened, but the cloud itself, obviously it's real. Azure is everywhere, and as we hit the tail end of the Xbox One era, the cloud is back, or more specifically, Project xCloud, a really neat innovation that takes the humble Xbox One S and allows you to play it pretty much anywhere on a device that everybody already owns, the smartphone. Yes, for us existing Xbox gamers, xCloud is a new way to play and potentially an exciting one. But Microsoft's endgame is designed to facilitate explosive growth in brand new markets. Now, you won't see too many Xbox consoles in India, for example, but there are close to 1 billion smartphones there. So obviously, this is a huge opportunity. But as we've seen recently with Stadia, the technical challenges with the cloud are immense. And that's the key reason why Microsoft's Project xCloud is still in beta. I mean, they're still testing it, they're still refining the technology. Now, delivering movies and TV shows to a mobile device is a walk in the park by comparison to streaming gameplay. Video can be buffered up to cover up inconsistencies in data delivery, while the pre-recorded nature of movies and TV shows means that compression can be incredibly efficient. Any given frame can borrow data from prior frames or ones that have still yet to be delivered. Streaming gameplay video, interactive gameplay video, it's a couple of orders of magnitude more complex than that. Now, there are 4 key components to the xCloud experience: the server blades, the client devices, the controller and the app. The servers are currently 3rd generation iterations running on custom motherboards, but using standard Xbox One S silicon. Microsoft has managed a 30% drop in power consumption by using the Hovis method, the technique of individually tuning power delivery for the needs of each individual processor, a system that it first used with Xbox One X, of course. The server blades run customized low-level software that runs the OS as per normal, but also interfaces with an external video encoder on the board, tuning the feed to best suit the connection to the client, to the user. Based on my discussions with Microsoft at the recent XO19, there are a couple of interesting facts here. First of all, the Xbox One S silicon is set to output to 120 Hz, a function built into the consumer-level console too, of course, and this lowers the latency by ensuring that new frames, as they're produced, reach the encoder as soon as possible. Secondly, the CPU component of the processor runs at a higher clock than standard retail units in order to accommodate the extra demands put on the chip by the code required for driving the encoding process. The client device, now that's the next key component, and from our testing, the choice of smartphone can make a real difference to the experience in terms of latency. The cellular radio or Wi-Fi controller can add lag, and likewise with the Bluetooth radio that interfaces your phone with the joypad. Yeah, right now, xCloud doesn't seem to support direct cable links, which is kind of curious. Now, just like an HD TV, the smartphone screen can have its own display latency, something that we can't measure in the here and now. Then there's the choice of controller. Right now, the preferred solution is to take a standard Xbox One pad and connect up via Bluetooth, using a plastic clip to physically pair the 2 devices together. It works, but in my opinion, it looks somewhat ungainly. For part of my testing, Razer supplied me with its Jungle Cat controller, which essentially brings the physical form factor of Nintendo's Joy-Cons to the smartphone world. A bespoke case is attached to a compatible phone, and I use the Razer Phone 2 here, and then the Switch-like controllers slot into place. Now, I think that this solves the form factor and controller issue completely, but as we shall discover, I'm not sure that the Razer Phone itself is the best choice as a phone for gameplay streaming on xCloud. Now, finally, there's the app. Simply download from the Google Play Store, input your Microsoft account details, and you're good to go. A simple interface allows you to pick and choose the game you want to choose. A check is carried out to ensure that a compatible controller is attached, And then there's a fairly lengthy pause as your game is queued up for streaming. Now, loading times are fairly prolonged on Project xCloud. You can't really get away from that, though loading is generally faster than a standard Xbox One S console. The bottom line is that CPU speed is intrinsically linked to loading times, so in this sense, while there is an improvement over a standard retail console via server-grade storage, the extent of the speed boost varies on a per-title basis, and to be honest, for a cloud-based system, it can be a bit of a pain. But once you're into the game, Project xCloud is a portable handheld Xbox One. It acts like an Xbox One because it is an Xbox One. Cloud saves sync up automatically, achievements are earned and stored just like the local experience, and Xbox Live functionality just works because you're still effectively gaming on an Xbox One console. It's just running remotely. What's more, because it's running on Microsoft Azure, the Xbox One blades are effectively peers with Microsoft's cloud servers. I ran the matchmaking latency test in Gears 5 and noted a 17 millisecond ping to Western Europe servers on my local console, and this registered as just 1 millisecond on xCloud. In fact, Microsoft tells me that this reduction in latency actually caused anti-cheat measures to kick in during early testing. But this is all kind of a preamble to the twin topics you're probably here for, image quality and latency. And it's here where we really need to stress that the current xCloud beta is exactly that, a work in progress designed to amass feedback. And that's exactly what I did when my connection didn't play ball with xCloud, necessitating me to test using the same 200 megabits per second hookup I borrowed for my Stadia review. xCloud itself beams a 720p 60 frames per second video stream to your phone, downscaled from the source game resolution, and there is an eye towards economy in terms of bitrate, which has an impact on image quality, depending on the content. Now, it's at this point where, once again, I have to stress that the beta isn't finished code, but more to the point, this is designed specifically to be run on smaller screens, and as we've seen with Nintendo Switch, having a relatively small display as the canvas for gameplay hides a lot of unwanted effects, and so it is with xCloud. Image quality, I'd say it's best defined as fine overall, but it's very definitely a mixed bag depending on the content that's being fed to the encoder. First couple of levels of Halo 5 are mostly set in darker environments, easier to compress, so image quality holds up well. Macro blocking only noticeable during screen-filling pyrotechnic displays. On a smaller screen you can tell it isn't pristine, but it holds up overall. Now, compare and contrast with Killer Instinct. Bright colours, fast action and micro-level detail are a nightmare for any video encoder to deal with, and even on the smartphone screen, compression artifacts are as clear as day. Now, using the game's replay system with saved bouts in the cloud, we can play back the action identically on both local and cloud systems, and we really get a sense of how image quality buckles when presented with the most challenging of content in the thick of gameplay. A smaller smartphone screen won't cover up a hit to image quality as profound as this, that's for sure. So, after that torrid workout for the encoder, well, sitting somewhere in the middle between Halo 5 and Killer Instinct is Gears 5, where I'd say that the experience is mostly fine from a visual quality perspective, but some content, like for example, fog, waterfalls and such, can cause compression artifacts to kick in to a degree that is noticeable even on a smartphone screen. Now, Microsoft tells me that variable bitrate encoding is already in place with xCloud, but I would hope to see some level of user tweaking added in to allow the user to set a specific quality level. While bandwidth is likely to be limited outdoors on cellular connections, it would certainly be useful to have the option of ramping up the data rate when at home and running from Wi-Fi, or indeed an Ethernet link. So, overall, quality, it's a bit of a mixed bag as you can see. The encoder works fine across a range of different games, but the small size of a smartphone screen goes a long way in mitigating the inherent compromises in using compressed video. And while Killer Instinct may look like a good degree worse than Halo or Gears, it's not too difficult to find other titles that clearly struggle, even when viewed on a phone. Forza Horizon 4, for example, moves a lot of high detail artwork about at high speed, and it looks a world apart from the local experience. So let's move on. Latency is our next port of call, and it's here where there is a massive divide in opinion based on the xCloud reports I've seen online, and I think I might have an explanation for that. In assessing cloud systems, I like to remove as many variables as possible from lag testing. Wi-Fi is a no-no for getting consistent results, while display lag changes on literally every screen you might test, sometimes to a dramatic degree. xCloud adds a further lag factor in the here and now that might change from phone to phone too. There's no USB controller support in the current client, so Bluetooth radio quality could contribute to lag too. Out of all of those variables, I can only remove Wi-Fi, and I do that by using a USB Ethernet dongle plugged into the phone. I had planned to use a USB-C hub to handle HDMI input, but after testing it, I think this might have lag issues of its own. So yeah, I had to rule that one out. Now, I tested the Razer Phone 2, a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus and a Red Magic 3S, one after the other in an easily repeatable lag test, pressing the jab button in Killer Instinct's practice mode while filming at 180 frames per second with a high-speed camera. And yeah, I found anything up to a 36 millisecond differential in response between the phones performing identical tasks in the same game on the same connection. Whether it's down to display lag or Bluetooth radio can't be ascertained, but consistently, the fastest phone in my testing was the Red Magic 3S. And surprisingly, considering the fact that it's got a 120Hz display, the Razer Phone 2 was the slowest, with the S9 Plus somewhere in the middle. I actually tested the Razer Phone 2 at 60Hz, 90Hz and 120Hz display modes, but all produced very similar results, so maybe there's something up with Bluetooth there. Hopefully Razer can look into the puzzling performance level here, as the Jungle Cat peripheral solves the big controller issues inherent to cloud gaming on a phone. So let's look at some measurements then. I get the base latency of Killer Instinct by hooking up my Xbox One S to a CRT, which has no display lag at all. Now this presents us with the best case scenario for the core hardware and our starting point for understanding the lag in the game. I then visited noted HDTV review site Artings and grabbed input lag results for the Samsung RU7100, which tops its charts for the lowest input lag, and the LG OLED E9, simply because if I were buying a screen now, it would still be an LG OLED. Artings measurements with game mode on and off added to Killer Instinct's base latency to give something closer to real-life gaming results. I mean, very few people out there are gaming on a CRT with an Xbox One. And the results here are fascinating. Assuming the Artings results are on the money and, their testing methodology is sound in my opinion, well, a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus running xCloud produces a nigh-on identical result to a Samsung 2019 display running with game mode disabled, with the Red Magic 3S running xCloud actually being 20 milliseconds faster. The Red Magic 3S shows 54.4 milliseconds of extra lag up against the CRT experience, which I would say is an excellent result, bearing in mind that this includes both Bluetooth and display latency, in addition to all of the lag inherent in beaming data across the internet. The spread of results in the table also demonstrates why platform holders like Microsoft, Google and Sony believe that cloud gaming will take off. Most gamers will likely hook up their consoles to their screens without engaging game mode, and this suggests a degree of flexibility in how mainstream users perceive latency and how cloud gaming can slot into that kind of experience. But if you're used to game mode and you're trying out xCloud on a phone with notable display lag or Bluetooth issues, well, yeah, then the experience could be rather disappointing. It may take some time to adjust to it, and you may never be satisfied with the result. So I've been testing xCloud for a while now, and this beta is a promising hint of the full experience to come. And the 50 title lineup we have to test in the here and now gives us a taste of how Game Pass gains an extra dimension through the addition of cloud support. The notion of having access to so many games in such a convenient way in a portable, take-anywhere form factor is brilliant. Game Pass's strength is the length and breadth of titles you can experience, with xCloud removing the final element of friction, download times. This is as close to the mythical Netflix for games concept as anything I've seen so far. So if the service launched as is, I think there'd be many very happy users out there. But at the same time, my testing has highlighted that as strong as the core technology is, Microsoft is not entirely in control of the whole experience end to end, as it is when delivering an actual piece of console hardware. Beyond network conditions, what surprised me was how variable the feeling of latency was from title to title and on phone to phone. Now, the concept of latency and how it is felt, it's a difficult topic to articulate because the experience is so different from person to person, and the way they kind of appreciate that experience changes too. And there were times when playing Halo 5 didn't feel right on the Razer Phone 2 with the Jungle Cat peripheral, while playing Shadow the Tomb Raider was fine despite objective latency measurements showing that Halo is always more responsive, likely owing to its super low native input lag. Now, I can't describe why I felt like that, but that's how it felt to me. I do wonder if streaming lag is actually a fixed cost across all games or whether it might vary from title to title. I think I need to do some more testing on this. Now, coming out of this one, I do think there's very definitely a market for a new kind of Xbox, a Switch-styled client device with input controls, networking and display tuned for ultra-low latency. The Razer Phone 2 with the Jungle Cat add-on demonstrated to me spectacularly that there are enticing possibilities for a handheld Xbox that delivers a comprehensively improved ergonomic experience over the phone plus clip combo. But this does need to be combined with internal hardware designed to offer the best possible xCloud experience. I'd also be fascinated to see how xCloud runs on the Switch. Rumours continue to do the rounds about discussions between Microsoft and Nintendo on this very topic. Ultimately, I came away impressed with this early look at xCloud, mostly from the fact that at its best it's essentially delivering a fully handheld Xbox experience equivalent to playing on an HD TV with game mode disabled. It's not the finished article by a long chalk, and I still think there are some fundamental challenges with the concept, just as there are with Stadia. Bandwidth remains a limited commodity, and gameplay over IP can't adjust to different demands on your connection from various users in the house in the way that YouTube or Netflix can. But the core technology does work, and bearing in mind the scale of the challenge here, that in itself is a remarkable result. I would be hoping for improved image quality in the final version though, or at least a user tweakable quality setting. But that's all from me for now. As always, do like and subscribe to support the work of Digital Foundry, and yes, the bell, ring it for instant notifications whenever we drop new content onto YouTube. I want to thank the influx of new Patreon supporters who've signed up this month. It really means a lot to us as it's swiftly becoming clear to us that YouTube alone isn't going to be paying the bills. Direct support makes all the difference, and of course there's now 3 years worth of pristine quality downloadable video content for users to tap into. So yeah, thanks for making it all the way to the end of this one, and in general, thanks for watching and supporting Digital Foundry.